This is the Wrestlebread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee, and this is episode 157 of the Wrestlebread Podcast. So we have Death Before Dishonor coming this weekend. I won't be really giving a lot of predictions because some of the wrestlers I'm not like 100% familiar with, but I will give my overall opinion as we are going towards that pay-per-view. Also, I've watched all of Stranger Things season 4. Definitely my favorite season of all of the 4. Not going to give any spoilers, but if you never seen Stranger Things, definitely check it out. Especially if you are older, you remember the 80s. If you are a horror fan or anything like that, definitely check it out. And then I checked out Thor, Love and Thunder, and I don't know, I really wasn't the biggest fan of it. There were some things that happened in the movie that kind of didn't make sense of the overall like Marvel universe, especially how Thor should be in this. And plus there was a lot of comedy. Like I like comedy, and I get that, Thor movies tend to have some comedy, but there were some scenes where it should have been serious, but there was still comedy in it. And then there were things that they left out that definitely would have added more to the movie. Christian Bale, of course, killed it, for when he was on the screen. I wish we had a lot more of him in it, but, it is what it is. And we're going on to the next Marvel movie. But I hope everyone is enjoying their summer so far. It's going to be hot as hell over here in the Northeast. About to be a 6-day heat wave, and I see that like in Texas and all that other stuff, and especially overseas, it's going to be like very hot, feeling like over 100 degrees. 100 degrees, before you even mention how the heat wave, how hot it feels and stuff like that. Heat index is what I'm thinking of. Before you factor in the heat index, I'm hoping to everyone out there that everyone is safe, including your family and your friends, that, we get through this heat wave safely and, staying cool and stuff like that. These bills are going to be a pain in the ass from having the AC on all this time, but I hope everyone stays safe and cool. So let's get into some of the rumors going around. As far as with Sasha Banks, I didn't check today, but she's still listed on WWE website along with Naomi. But she is appearing, I forgot what she's appearing at. It's very similar to like Comic-Con, but she's appearing seems like as a meet and greet. And also, apparently, according to Fightful Select, promoters who have contacted her have been told she's only taking non-wrestling bookings until January 1st, 2023. So it could be possible that she may be out of her contract. I don't know. But the fact that it's January 1st of 2023 and not anytime sooner, I don't know what's going on there. Of course, there's people wondering where she may end up if she goes back to WWE, if she goes to AEW, or even goes on to Hollywood. Who knows? But I did notice something very interesting that's going on in AEW. And that is now all of a sudden we're getting a lot of women's tag teams coming together. I mean, we got Thunderstorm. We at one point had Mercedes Martinez and Serena Deeb. We also had Statlander and Athena as well. The baddies at one point as well. We got the Renegade Twins that keep appearing and everything. So it just feels like maybe they are trying to set up a stage to entice Sasha Banks and Naomi to come over. Now, if you want to talk about as far as like game changers, stuff like that, I think signing Sasha Banks will definitely put a lot of eyes to the women's division. The only thing is that the women's division is still a work in progress. So I'm hoping that Sasha Banks will be willing to help that women's division, not as necessarily be a leader, but be, give the veteran advice to a lot of the women who aren't experienced as far as being in front of a TV or, having to cut promos and stuff like that. But I am very interested to see if that's the path she's going to go. If I was Tony Khan, I would definitely give her a call. Like, even if you only have her for about a year, there's definitely a lot of eyes that's going to come onto your product because you have such a high-powered name coming to your organization. Now, will she, gain so many views that they blast like Raw or SmackDown out of the water? No, but it'll definitely help bring people over who, is fans of Sasha Banks. She has a nice following going for her. Now, as long as they are, willing to give AEW that chance, who knows? But I did find it very interesting that we are seeing a lot more women's tag teams in AEW recently. Another person who actually got signed over from WWE to AEW, Parker Bordeaux. He was actually on AEW Dark. I didn't watch the match or anything. I just read that he was filmed on there. And apparently he's being aligned with Arya Davari in a stable called the Trustbusters. Apparently the Trustbusters group is Davari is playing a character whose trust fund came in, and he's using his money to hire Parker Bordeaux and someone else. But we don't know if this is like a AEW exclusive group, or if this is a Ring of Honor exclusive group, or if this is just them, being in the indies. Trustbusters isn't really the best of names. I mean, I definitely think of Ghostbusters, and the jokes kind of flow from there on its own. But as far as Parker Bordeaux, like I kept saying when he got released, that I was very surprised that WWE released him because that's, baby Brock Lesnar. They definitely go for people of that size. Now, as far as how he would fit in AEW, I'm not 100% sure because AEW is very, high pace, spot fest, cut open and bleed all over the place type of situation. But I don't know like where he is wrestling wise right now, if he has definitely, significantly improved since his NXT days, who knows? But I am interested to see where this is going to go. They didn't really announce him being signed or anything, so I'm going to assume that he's just appearing just for this taping. So going over to WWE's side, Pat McAfee has reportedly signed an extension with WWE, which I'm happy about. I really like him on commentary, and he's really great with Michael Cole. Michael Cole is so entertaining with Pat McAfee, and it kind of like reminds me of JR and Jerry the King Lawler. And I mean that as far as the chemistry between the two, because Michael Cole wasn't good, wasn't as enjoyable on commentary until he got with Pat McAfee. And I'm sure Pat McAfee can, be versatile and work with anyone, really. But, it's just that pairing and the chemistry that works really well. And I compare it to Jerry the King Lawler and JR as far as chemistry and being able to work off of each other. Because we see, Lawler, be on commentary with other teams outside of JR, and he's not enjoyable. He's not funny or anything like that. But you put him with JR and, he's at his best. And the same thing with JR. JR was his best when he was with Jerry the King Lawler. And that's because of the chemistry. I mean, you could say the knowledge too, because he's not as knowledgeable over in AEW, but you cannot deny the chemistry that those two had. Also, too, allegedly, now I tried to look to see where this originally came from, but apparently Raw will be TV 14. Now, I don't know how true it is because at first the date was for July 18th and then it was not for July 18th. And from, a lot of the sources that I was trying to look at only noted one source. I forgot which one, I forgot who it was that said it, but it was from one source. So I don't know how true it is. But if Raw ends up being TV 14, that's going to be very interesting, especially the fact that WWE really, hangs on the entertainment part, and they always promote themselves as family friendly. And we've seen plenty of times of WWE trying to do more mature content. Who remembers the third hour of Raw that's supposed to be like more grittier that Mick Foley mentioned, Raw Underground, and a lot of, even though like the 24/7 title, at first people had a lot of high expectations that it would be a little bit not really more mature, but wouldn't be as I don't know. But there was expectations for it. So for them to go to TV 14, I'm interested to know what that is going to look like. Now, I honestly don't think that we're going back to Attitude Era or anything like that. Like, we're not going to get any bra and panty matches or anybody cutting themselves open or anything like that. But I am interested to see what TV 14 would be. And you can say what you want about it. I honestly think that it has to do with AEW. You can't sit here and tell me that it had nothing to do with AEW, because AEW is the only company that has offers a legitimate competition. While yes, TNA, had people that switched over to them from WWE, the impact of that switch isn't as big as it is with AEW. And AEW is taken a lot more seriously than, TNA was. Who, remembers LOL TNA trending for the longest of time because of all the craziness that's happened on that show. And then on top of that, AEW is a lot more, usually I should say, more grittier with the cursing and the bleeding and stuff like that. And the way, especially when they go to great wrestling towns where the crowd is hot, the signs weren't as crazy as, Top Peak Raw or anything like that, but there are signs and stuff like that. And, that's something that WWE has kind of been missing. Um, of course, they went PG and they presented John Cena as the front head. And now that John Cena has definitely moved on to Hollywood and, the end of his career, it may be the reason why they went back to TV 14. There's rumors out there that it was a network decision or something like that, but still, I don't think they would have went to TV 14 without the presence of another wrestling company that is showing that, hey, TV 14 can be successful as well. No, AEW does not pull in the numbers that Raw and SmackDown does, but it still generates enough buzz and attention for networks and sponsors to say, you know what, this TV 14 is kind of working here. And plus, with a lot of success with shows like Squid Games and stuff like that, that is really popular despite how, violent and crazy it can be, that, not everything has to be 100% family friendly in order to, not really steer away from TV 14. But I am interested to see what this will look like. Because, I've said this in a previous episode that, WWE really isn't for the older generations. Like, they'll give us, moments of like, okay, this was enjoyable, but truly the wrestling is for a younger audience. Back in the 80s and whatnot, when we were all growing up, seeing the larger in life characters like Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. And then once they left, kind of get into the younger, newer generation with the new generation era. And then, of course, once we became teenagers and rebels and all other stuff, that's when the Attitude Era came out. And then, coming out of that, we're kind of like adults and stuff like that. And then seeing that, hey, no, actually, the Ruthless Aggression, when we became more of adults and graduating from high school and stuff like that. And then, of course, once you know, legit become an adult with responsibilities and everything, now wrestling turned around and became for your kids. So, you know, just seeing that WWE really doesn't market themselves like that to the older wrestling generation. But like I said, I'm very interested to see what Raw TV 14 will look like. There's no date for when it's going to happen, so this rumor may not even be 100% authentic anyway. So who knows? And now coming to one of the biggest news coming around WWE over the past couple of weeks has to do with Vince McMahon. Of course, he was previously, it came out with the investigation of him paying out a former employee, I believe it was $3 million or something like that. And then further investigations show that was actually 4 women over the past 16 years who were paid up around $12 million to stop allegations of infidelity and sexual misconduct. And this came from the Wall Street Journal. One was an actual former wrestler who said that McMahon had coerced her into a sexual act and then demoted her, declined to renew her contract after she resisted further encounters, and then she was released in 2005. Then her and her attorney turned around and approached McMahon later in the years for a payment for her silence. And then there was a contractor who, you know, presented the company with unsolicited photos from McMahon. And also there was a former manager who had worked 10 years from Mr. McMahon before he allegedly initiated a relationship with her and was apparently paid $1 million to keep quiet about it. Now, is there like an actual crime as far as him having infidelity and stuff like that? No. He paid out with his own money. Yes. Didn't use the funds. But the bigger picture is, first of all, I don't know why anybody would be shocked by this, because this is who he was playing the whole time in Attitude Era, and something should really click. Like, wow, there should be something to this of Vince McMahon having like at least 5 storylines of him and other women, and you know, with affairs and stuff like that. So I'm not surprised that it came out that he paid women out and he actually did sleep around. I'm surprised that it's only 4 women, to be honest, and we're up to what, $15 million. I'm surprised that it's not more, especially the initial allegation, which happened pretty recently. We're talking from that allegation all the way back to the Attitude Era. I'm surprised that it's only 4 or 5 women. He's a sleazebag. He portrayed himself as a sleazebag. You know, it's just like the saying, if they walk like a duck and they talk like a duck and they look like a duck, it's a damn duck. So I'm not surprised that Vince McMahon has been actually doing this. I'm surprised at how long it took the board to, you know, get a sniff of this. And I'm very interested because the board was around during the Attitude Era, that no one in their right mind that said, we have the CEO who is in charge of creative and putting himself in these storylines with female wrestlers, having them to kiss him and stuff like that. Wouldn't that create an environment that's a bit uncomfortable, because you're being told in creative, hey, we have a storyline for you. You're actually going to be involved in an affair with the CEO and your boss. Like, are you, like, I don't even know if they would ask them, hey, are you okay with that? It more likely was, okay, this is your storyline. And this, I used this example before with Tori Wilson. The first night of her getting signed to WWE, she was involved in a scene of kissing Vince McMahon. So you can't sit here and tell me that, you know, the board kind of, like, I guess, turned a blind eye to this. Now, as far as like sexual harassment, stuff like that, that was like all over the place back in the day. And it still is it still is around today, but the sexual harassment laws are taken a lot more seriously now than it was 20 years ago. It was pretty much like jokes and movies and shows of, sleazy CEOs making passes on their female employees. I'm not saying that it was okay. I'm saying it was the norm back then. It was kind of like you're not exactly surprised by it. So, yeah, I'm not surprised by it. I'm not even surprised that when he came out for SmackDown and for Raw before, the more allegations came out, that he was cheered. I'm not surprised about it at all. There are people who are actually defending him, seeing that, feeling as though he did nothing exactly wrong. And I'm not even going to get into some of the things that I've read because I'm sure it's going to piss off some people. But yeah, there were people who defended him. There are people who, put the blame on the women. But to me, my honest opinion is that something should have clicked in somebody's head, that the person who owns the company and it has full control of creative and what storylines people are in, that they did this storyline not once, not twice, not three times, but he was in a lot of storylines with women, kissing them and stuff like that. So, and like I said, this dude said the N word on live TV, so I'm not surprised that this all came about. Really, like I wouldn't be surprised that more come out. I'm very interested to see what is going to happen from this. Now, I read somewhere, I forgot where, that apparently the board feel as though the success of WWE is due to Vince McMahon, as if Vince McMahon was to step completely away from WWE, that it will fall. And then on top of that, Vince McMahon has the majority of the company shares and the majority of the voting power. So, yeah, I highly doubt anything is going to happen. They're just going to, do this whole PR and try to, throw, toss things underneath the rug until the media and the fans move on to the next thing, which I would assume would be, talking about Sasha Banks' release or something like that. But, they have very successful PR and lawyers because, the as time continues on, less and less people are talking about these allegations with Vince McMahon. Instead, they're talking about, who's coming and this, that, and the third, and SummerSlam, and the weirdness that's happening this week in wrestling and even last week in wrestling as well. So let's get to that first of all. Going into SmackDown, first of all, um, bless Pat McAfee to get bum ass Baron Corbin trending and things like that. But enough about that. Let's talk about the maximum models with Max Dupri. And we had Monse and Mansois sporting some tennis clothes. Apparently, this week is going to be the beachwear collection. And now we are introducing a female named Maxine Dupri, who is Max Dupri's sister. I don't know who this person's supposed to be. I'm going to assume it may be someone from NXT. And then there was a whole website. Of course, it's for entertainment purposes, but it does ask for info and the full body photo. According to what they said on SmackDown, it was like 8,000 applications. They actually posted some of the photos. Max Dupri or LA Knight posted some of the photos on Twitter and was like declining people and stuff. My issue is I'm very interested on what the Saudi Arabia fans feel about Mansoor, man is now Mansois and is walking around rocking the Hoochie Daddy shorts. Like that is the person that WWE took to represent you guys, and they put him in this storyline. Now he wasn't there the last time that they had the Saudi show, and the next one should be around October. So I don't know if we're going to switch him out of this storyline by then, or we're just going to keep him away. But I'm very interested to know what the Saudi fans feel about this, that you are seeing the only wrestler from your country and he's being put into, a bit of a silly storyline. I don't know how this is going to translate to the ring. I don't even think this is going to translate to the ring. Because it was pointed out, and a lot of people have pointed out, I think it was SmackDown like 2 weeks ago or something like that, that it was less than like 30 minutes of actual wrestling and the rest was all segments and stuff. So, we're definitely getting the entertainment part of sports entertainment. So I highly doubt this maximum model management is going to go anywhere near the ring. Like, I don't even know how you're going to start a feud with this. I guess a babyface comes out or something and attacks one of them, or they attack someone, but I don't know how you I don't know how you put a model gimmick into the ring, because wouldn't they feel as though they're too pretty to be touched? I mean, are they going to put on the protective face mask like Carmella does or something? Now they had like model-esque wrestlers from back in the day, but it wasn't like this where they were putting on like straight up fashion shows or something like that. Like, oh my gosh, the name escapes me. I know who it is. I know who I'm thinking of, and they did not do like any runways or anything like that. I mean, they just had the model look and stuff like that, and they felt like untouchable. Like even Triple H when he first came on the scene as Hunter Hearst Helmsley, like he had the gimmick of "Don't touch me," and he's like upper class, but he still wrestled, you know what I mean? So I know I'm not understanding what are we doing here. And then we had Lacey Evans, which is like, look, Lacey is good as a heel. She is. But like I said before, this was a straight up toss up to have someone who is actually in the military to be the face of someone, for the military. You no longer have John Cena. So now you're missing that face of WWE to relate to the veterans and the military and their spouse and their families. And I felt as though Lacey Evans could have easily, been that way. You had her, say this sob story for some reason. I hope that it wasn't a true story. I mean, it's messed up if it's not a true story. But I'm hoping like she did not legit just come out here and talk for 5 weeks of her legit story of being an abuse victim and having to deal with mental illness and drug overdoses and abuse and things like that, just for the fans to turn around and boo her. It's like she's now she's technically a heel because of the thing she told the fans to go to hell. But it's like now you want us to boo an abuse victim in 2022. And then she like was doing the promo and stuff like that, and she got the what chance and you suck and stuff like that. But like I said, she could have been a female, like face version of Sergeant Slaughter or something like that. And she could have definitely used her, like she could have been front and center with, salute to the troops and stuff like that. Because like I said, you're missing someone to, be that front and center person that John Cena was with the military. But, it is what it is. I mean, I'm slightly disappointed that that's where we went. I really shouldn't have been surprised that they made her into a heel, but it's just like, it's just disappointing. We also had Butch. Oh my gosh, Butch. He before the match, with McIntyre and I think Rich Holland, he was running around, like not running around. He was like stomping around. He went and grabbed the bell, wanted to get into the ring with the bell, and then he rung it. And I'm saying like his gimmick is basically one of those little badass toddlers that is running around Walmart and doesn't listen to his mom and dad. That's basically what we have here. We had the New Day dressed up as the Viking Raiders, and they're called the New Raid. I'm happy that we didn't get the trigger words of the new vicious Viking Raiders, I think it was. And then we had Jeff Jarrett for some reason. Like, I get the connection because SummerSlam is going to be in Nashville, but it was definitely from left field that we have Jeff Jarrett being named as a special guest referee at SummerSlam. Like I said, I'm guessing it's only because they're in Nashville, but I don't really get as far as him like being such a big tag team specialist that we needed to get him as the special guest referee. Like, I know you can't use the Hardys or anything, but I don't know. I felt as though we could have got somebody else to make it interesting. And to be honest, to be 100% fair, and I'm going to date myself, there's not a lot of people who know who the hell Jeff Jarrett is as far as WWE. Now, you probably know him from TNA and stuff like that, but as far as like WWE, it's been a hot ass minute since he was in WWE. I mean, probably around the time that Owen had passed. Let's see, I think he may have been there a couple of years after that, but yeah, he wasn't there for that much longer. So I'm going to assume that they're hoping that people will Google it and find out who the hell Jeff Jarrett is. Going into Raw this week, it was okay. They brought out Titus O'Neil to introduce, to do the introduction for Raw. I was about to say Raw's War. Wow. To do the introduction for Raw, he's the global ambassador. Basically this was supposed to be Vince McMahon's spot. I'm like, I am about 95.8 percent sure that Vince McMahon was going to come out during Raw to introduce Raw, and everyone and their mama and grandmama told him, no, don't do that. You need to stay your ass back here, and they decided to go with Titus O'Neil anyway. And I mean, he cut it was an interesting promo. They mentioned how they don't talk politics or religion or anything like that because they want to make it comfortable for everyone. And I'm sitting here like, well, tell that to the people who are being denied chances for titles or not really getting raises and stuff like that. And people who had seen their friends being let go just to sign the guy from AEW, from the rival company, and then boost him up to potentially a title shot within a year. Okay, sell that to them. But yeah, it was very interesting promo. Basically, it has PR team written all over it to get the attention away from everyone talking about Vince McMahon. It was an okay, episode. We had Logan Paul. That was the main event segment, was Logan Paul coming in and accepting the Miz's challenge at SummerSlam. The thing with WWE and AEW sometimes does it too is they fuck with the fan audio. And so I don't know if people were legit booing Logan Paul or if they were legit cheering for him. I don't know. But some of the things, I don't know. Like, Logan Paul fits the WWE, like he fits WWE, with the character and stuff like that. But it's just like, I don't know. It's, everybody popped because of Bad Bunny, and it just like opened the door for everyone, for like different people to just come in and feel as though like because they're a celebrity and they can do some moves that fans will automatically cheer them. And like I had said, the only person that can get Logan Paul over as a babyface is The Miz. And so I don't think Logan, I mean, the promo, the interaction between him and The Miz, like, you could definitely tell that they were trying to get Logan Paul as the baby face and get him cheered and stuff. But it was just weird. You know what I mean? It was just weird. And then, of course, we went back to the tiny balls thing. And then we have Ciampa entering in. He is one of the Miz's lackeys, I'm guessing. Which, oh my gosh, baby Triple H, little Kratos, you know, oh man. I don't know. It's just a shame. I'm like not surprised that he's not being used to his full potential, but you still feel bad that they're not being used at their full potential. And then we had, the 24/7 title being exchanged hands like 20 times as after that as well. Like I didn't really catch all the first hour of Raw. Like I definitely caught the last hour and maybe the last like half hour of it. Um, but yeah, it was okay. We got Dolph Ziggler, dressing nice again. He's no longer a dog. I don't know, he's Dolph now. Um, I guess we're gonna do something with him because it's around that time. Um, I thought he was going to be one of Theory's lackeys, but then he attacked Theory. So, there's that. So I don't know where we're going from there. You know what I mean? We're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing which ones stick. Just throwing the shit there. Just throw the shit at the wall and see what sticks. But I don't know. WWE can be like up and down sometimes, really. I mean, Pat McAfee really makes SmackDown a lot more enjoyable. And then there's like, I don't know, there's some things on Raw and even with SmackDown that's just like you just shake your head and you just wait for the ride to be over. You know what I mean? You just wait for the ride to be over. Something interesting that Corey Graves has said on his podcast about NXT. He mentioned how there's pretty much not a difference between, wrestling styles and having a skill set in NXT. Because he mentioned about Giovanni Vinci, who was no different from, his former persona, and then how Roxanne Perez when she wrestles is not really different from JC Rain or other wrestlers as well. And I feel as though that's pretty much what WWE wants. They have a certain style of wrestling that they want, a certain way of promos. Like when Cora Jade had cut her promo as heel Cora Jade now, the way she cut her promos is the exact same way that Liv Morgan cuts her promos. And so it feels like this is what WWE wants. They want a certain type of style as far as like promo and characters and stuff like that. Now, I don't 100% agree with Corey Graves as far as like, moveset being the same between wrestlers because Solo Sikoa wrestles a lot more differently than Joe Gacy, who wrestles a lot differently than Carmelo Hayes, who wrestles a lot differently from Braun Breaker. If he's saying as far as there are a number of wrestlers who all wrestle the same, and I'm going to assume that they're the ones who are not skilled outside of WWE as far as wrestling wise, who is using the basic skill set that you automatically get with the creative character in 2K22 or whatever. But I really noticed with the way that they cut promos is pretty much the same. Like they do the sway back and forth, and sometimes they'll enunciate certain words as well. It's like I don't know, it's like the tone and everything like that they talk. Like I could probably do it. I don't feel like doing it because I get annoyed once I catch on to it. But yeah, it's pretty much the same. Speaking of Cora Jade, poor Cora Jade, she tried to turn heel. She tried to hit Roxanne with the skateboard. The skateboard broke before she could even hit her with it, which is, kudos to the prop team of WWE. I'm hoping that her turning heel would make her more, I don't know. I'm hoping that will make her better, I should say, as far as like more comfortable with her because I can definitely see that that's who they want as like the face of the NXT, I should say. They want her to be that young underdog that WWE loves to push, but it's just like it feels like she doesn't have the confidence or the experience. And maybe with her turning heel, that will definitely help her along the way. I'm just confused at why did they make them tag team champions if they were going to split up anyway. I would have rather them, not succeed and then have Cora turn on her. Because then Cora was like, she turned on her because Roxanne of took the opportunity of the title shot, when it would have made more sense of, I've been going after title shot, and not only did she, take away my shot, but she cost me the shot at the tag team titles. Like, you could have Roxanne be the one to get pinned or whatever, and then have Cora G, attack her afterwards. But it is what it is. It is what it is with that. I don't really watch NXT as much, but I saw that Cora Jade was trending because of her turn, and of course because of, them messing up the spot with her and the skateboard. So we are working towards SmackDown, it's not SmackDown, SummerSlam coming up. They don't have any, I don't think they have any trigger words with SummerSlam. They're not saying this is the most stupendous SummerSlam of all time or anything like that. But as far as what we have right now, we got Logan Paul going against The Miz, Riddle going against Seth Rollins, Pat McAfee versus Happy Corbin, Bobby Lashley versus Theory, the Usos versus Street Profits with Jeff Jarrett as special guest referee, Liv Morgan versus Ronda Rousey, which, oh my gosh, I feel bad for Liv Morgan because she may be losing her title. It feels like they just threw it at her just to throw it at her and give Ronda a break or something like that. I'm not sure. And then we got Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch, the rematch. And then, of course, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for the 170th first time. I'm pretty sure they're trying to break the record that John Cena and Randy Orton has set as far as most matches against each other. And that's a last standing match, with Theory teasing that he may cash in on Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar that day. So, whoa. So switching over to AEW Dynamite. Dynamite was fine. My issue with AEW, especially with Mr. Jon Moxley, is that they love to show blood. They love a cut and a blood. Listen, I'm fine with a bit of color, but only if it makes sense. And if like the situation in a match really calls for it. Like, I don't need blood on a Wednesday on a nice evening because you know what I mean? Like, I can see a pay-per-view which is very hard hitting. I can see during a brutal like weapon match or Extreme Rules or not Extreme Rules, they don't use that term. A tables match, or a Philly street fight or something like that. But a regular wrestling match on a Wednesday on a weekly show don't make much sense. Now, the match between Moxley and, I think his name, Konosuke, I think his first name is pronounced, was pretty good. Konosuke has definitely he looked really good since he came on the scene on AEW. But I'm not understanding why Jon Moxley got busted open. It feels like for the past 10 matches Jon Moxley has had, 8 of them he has bled. And a lot of the matches really didn't call for him to bleed. In my opinion, this match here didn't really call for him to bleed. Like he can wrestle without bleeding. I'm sure of it, but for some reason that's, whatever. We also had Orange Cassidy going against Wardlow. Now, I like Orange Cassidy, I like Wardlow, but for some reason with these two, the match really wasn't that good. Like, I don't know if it was just like too much comedy, because I can't say that because Orange Cassidy has gone against other people and it was a pretty good match. even with his bit of comedy with the hands in the pockets and the kicking and stuff. But I don't know, with Wardlow, it feels like he was a bit awkward with the comedy and whatnot. And it just like, it really didn't work for me. It really didn't work for me. And, like Orange Cassidy has had good matches. Wardlow has had good matches. And I always said I was very interested to see what happens with Wardlow after this feud with MJF. Because whenever MJF has a feud with someone, it's really good. And I feel bad for the other person because it's like you're going from this like fiery, feud with MJF where you are the absolute babyface and you have all these cheers and stuff like that. And now you're going through, you kind of like go downhill from there. And so him going against Orange Cassidy, it just like, it really didn't work. I'm happy that he won the TNT championship. I don't know where we go from here with that. We also have the evil Luchasaurus teaming up with Christian. Christian really showing us why he has a better edge than his former partner. You see what I did there? Did you see it? You saw it? Okay, cool. Christian is coming for everyone's mama and dead parents. Like, he said some shit about Brian Pillman, and it's just, and he mentioned to Luchasaurus that Griff Garrison kind of reminds him of Jungle Boy, and that's what got Luchasaurus to come down and whip his ass and stuff. But Christian's just like, he's taking this heel gimmick and is just like taking it to a 20th degree. It's just like, oh my gosh, sir, like, stop killing people. We're gonna have to call the cops sooner or later. What else we had? We also had Claudio going against Jake Hager, which on paper definitely, something to be excited about because these two were former tag team partners. And I have to say, definitely one of the more entertaining matches with Jake Hager in it. I mean, I didn't expect to say that to myself in 2022, really, but here we are. And Claudio's awesome. I'm happy for him that he just gets to go off and stuff like that. And we'll see where that goes. And then we had the main event, which was Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Will Hobbs going against Swerve in Our Glory and the Young Bucks. This was a good match. Of course, because it's a tag team match, that it would be good. And I love Team Taz. I was hoping that they would win the title. But I didn't watch Dynamite live. I forgot what I was doing. I probably was watching Stranger Things at that point. But I didn't watch it live. I got the spoil of who won the title, and I went back and watched the match. And I'm happy for Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland that they won the tag team titles. My guess is from here, because they won the title, that they'll continue to feud with Team Taz, and then they'll lose the title, and that's what will cause the split. But this was a pretty good match. And then we see Keith Lee going back to, he's kind of looking like his days in NXT. I'm not going to lie, with some of the things that he was doing in the ring. It seems like, his health is definitely getting a lot better, and that he's starting to get back to them old days of NXT. Ricky Starks is awesome. I can't complain. And then Will Hobbs, of course. They're such a great tag team, and I can't wait for Team Taz to win the titles. The Young Bucks is awesome, of course. It didn't really seem like anybody was like lost in the shuffle or anything like that. But I'm happy for the winners. And then Keith Lee had cut a promo afterwards dedicating the match to a very good friend of his who is battling with stage 4 cancer. So I'm like hoping his friend, is able to hold out and make it through and stuff like that. Cancer fucking sucks. Fuck it. Hate it. But I'm very happy for them. I'm interested to see where this kind of goes from here. Speaking of Claudio actually did an interview with Sports Illustrated, and he mentioned that he knew it was time to leave WWE when WWE didn't book him as one of the entrants for the Royal Rumble this past January. And he doesn't have any hard feelings against WWE. And then, of course, who could forget when Vince McMahon talked about the Swiss Superman and mentioned the what was it? Oh my gosh, the bronze, not the bronze ring, the brass ring. For people to grab the brass ring. And it's just it was very hard because I like Claudio. Well, his name's now Claudio. I like Claudio. I was always fascinated by the things that he did in the ring, but it just kind of sucks because when WWE don't really book someone like that, it's just like so many people who you want to go over. Sometimes you kind of forget. And I did believe I mentioned Claudio missing from the Royal Rumble. But I'm very happy that he is with AEW, that it feels like he is going to get his time to shine. He does have a title shot coming up this week at Death Before Dishonor. So getting into that, first off, for the Women's World Championship, we have Mercedes Martinez versus Serena Deeb. It might be a good match. Serena Deeb is good. She's really good as far as technical wrestling and things like that. So this could be a good match at the end of the day. I'm not, as far as who may win, I mean, I'm hoping for Serena Deeb. I'm hoping that she gets the title on her, and then she can go around and like wreak havoc on everyone. And then we have the 2 out of 3 falls match for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship. FTR versus the Briscoes. I think this was the match that a lot of people was looking forward to. I mean, there was a lot of shit talking between these two teams on the internet. I'm hoping that FTR retains the titles. I mean, FTR is awesome. They really are. I'm not 100% familiar with the Briscoe brothers. I've seen them wrestle with GHW. And I think I've seen them wrestle with something else. I forgot. But yeah, I'm hoping that FTR retains. And then we have for the Ring of Honor Pure Championship, Wheeler Yuta versus Daniel Garcia. And then it says Pure Wrestling Rules match. So I'm not quite sure what the Pure portion is. I'm not familiar with that. But on paper, this should be a good match between these two. Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia. And then we have the Ring of Honor World TV Championship, Samoa Joe versus Jay Lethal. I'm hoping that these two go all out. And I hope Samoa Joe doesn't get injured. Yes, I said it. I hope he doesn't get injured. But I still hope that this is a good match. Jay Lethal may win this since he has like a lot of help on his end, or we can have somebody show up. Who knows? And then finally, for the Ring of Honor World Championship, Jonathan Gresham versus Claudio. And now Jonathan has turned heel and he has Tully Blanchard with him. So I'm going to assume that he's going to have the help that will help him retain the title. I like Claudio. I feel as though it's too soon for him to get this a title this quickly. I feel as though this will be a pretty good match. Kind of introduce Jonathan Gresham, keep the title on him just a little bit longer until you figure out who you want as the face of your company. But unfortunately, I don't think it's Claudio. I mean, Claudio is with the Blackpool Combat Club and everything like that, and he could hold the Ring of Honor World title along with him, but I don't want him to win that title just yet. Sorry. But I don't know. This should be a good pay-per-view. I don't know if they're going to add more matches to this or not, or if they're going to kind of keep it similar to what NXT does, where it's only a couple of matches, and it seems like all those matches are title matches. If they're going to do a buy-in or something like that, I didn't even check the price of how much this pay-per-view costs. I'm going to assume it's $50 as well. But is your girl going to pay $50 to watch it? Not really, because I'm not as hyped for this pay-per-view as I would, for other pay-per-views. And plus, on top of that, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, AEW has been promoting it, but they're not promoting it as heavy as, they were promoting like their shit, because they're still in the middle of a Fighter Fest or Fight Fest, Fight Fest, Fighter Fest, tongue tied, Fighter Fest. So, and I'm hoping that this isn't like an afterthought. I'm hoping I believe there may be an announcement at the pay-per-view. I don't know. It seems like every time I turn around, Tony Khan has an announcement. But I'm hoping that, Ring of Honor gets a TV deal. Will I be watching Ring of Honor every single week? No, because it's already tough enough as it is to watch the 20 hours of wrestling that already exists on TV. But for the wrestler's sake and for the fans of Ring of Honor, I'm hoping that they get a TV deal so that people can be, in front of a lot of eyes. I don't know if maybe that may be looking towards streaming. I'm hoping it's not exactly YouTube. But I'm hoping that Ring of Honor gets a TV deal. Keep that roster a bit separate from it all. I mean, you can have some AEW people cross over to Ring of Honor. You can have Ring of Honor people cross over to AEW, but still kind of keep the core rosters separate. I know it's all going to be Tony Khan. He really needs help. As far as like a wrestling historian and stuff like that, he got it. But it's just a lot on the plate of one person to have full booking control of two companies. And it's not like, it's two different shows and under one company. It's legit like two different brands, two different companies. But, I'm wishing everyone the best. Wrestling is still good and it's still operating. And like I said, like, if you shouldn't be like more anti WWE or anti AEW. There's enough wrestling around for everyone. But if you're anti GCW, I understand. Nothing against the wrestlers of GCW. It's just the production of that one show that gave a chance. It just is like, no. But I hope that wrestling survives. I know that may be a contradictory statement I just said, but I'm hoping that, it survives for, the next 20 decades. I know that's a long ass time, but hey, that's what I'm hoping for. So that's it for the Wrestlebread podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Shout out to Julian and Rob Bates from Wrestling Court Podcast and TurretedMinds.com. Keita and Jay from the Keita and Jay Show. Chris from We Talk Next Podcast, which is featured on the Keita and Jay Show. Dando and Larry from Half K Podcast. Devin Hafiz from Clark Street Wrestling. And special shout outs to Straight Talk Wrestling, Circle Debate, and Top Rope Wrestling Podcast as well. Coming up next week, I will be doing a review of Death Before Dishonor. Hey, I may not pay for it, but I'll check it out somehow. Or at least check out highlights. Who knows? We are also gearing towards SummerSlam as well. Next week will be predictions of it. And I may try to do something because technically, SummerSlam would be the 30th year that I've been watching wrestling, even though it's technically in August, because that was with SummerSlam 1992, which I believe was in August. But maybe I'll do something with SummerSlam coming up so quickly to kind of like celebrate my 30 years, I guess. I mean, it's not going to be as grand as like Randy Orton's 20 years or John Cena's 20 years or Undertaker's 30 years or Rey Mysterio's 20 years, but I don't know, maybe I'll do something. And if it's not for SummerSlam coming coming up this soon. Maybe it'll be in August, because SummerSlam 1992 was like the end of August, I remembered. So maybe I'll do something there. Who knows? But, I'm hoping that SummerSlam will be a good show. That's all I'm really hoping for. I'm hoping everything will be a good show. But be sure to follow me on Twitter at JDC137. That's JAYDE letter C137. And I know I said that just like Jeff Jarrett. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at Wrestlebread as well. Be sure to click the links in the bio for the Instagrams, the Facebook, and the YouTube channel as well. Leave a review. Let me know your thoughts. How are you feeling about Death Before Dishonor coming up? How are you feeling about the Sasha Banks situation? How are you feeling about, Raw possibly turning into TV 14? But yeah, let me know your thoughts about all that. And until next time, guys, peace.